to Westminster. Are you in a hurry? A frown touched Cadogan's eyes. A bit, yes. Sir Michael kept me longer than I intended. Is there somewhere you need to stop first? Cadogan had never asked Daniel for such a concession before. Nah, it's not that, it's Sprite. She's showing her age, and I don't like to push her. She's let me know today that she's not up to trotting on the cobbles for miles. A bit stiff in the joints she is. I suppose I'll have to look for another horse soon, though it pains me. She was my first carriage horse, and she wasn't young when I got her. He dug a rag from his pocket and swiped a smudge of grease off the side of the carriage. My worry is, I can't afford to keep her if she's not earning. I rent space in a livery near my house, and what with feeding and shoeing and the like, a horse is a powerful expense. Still, I can't see parting with the old girl. No telling what would happen to her. 'Tis a quandary for sure. He shook himself. But that's no bother of yours, is it? We'll get there if we go steady. You can let me off at the Abbey. Daniel climbed aboard, sat on the bench, and leaned back as Cadogan shut the door. The potential change in Daniel's circumstances and his true parentage were hardly common knowledge, and the Duke of Haverley's message calling him to the home of a barrister had been quite cryptic. Daniel felt it wise not to draw attention to his destination, hence why he asked Cadogan to drop him a few blocks away. Daniel touched the flowers in the carriage's vase, and a pair of white petals fluttered to the floor. Chagrined, he picked them up and dropped them outside the open window, not wanting to leave a mess in the pristine vehicle. With a lurch, they were off, joining the evening traffic heading across the river. Daniel had never met with a barrister before, at least not on his own behalf. He'd been called to the Old Bailey to testify when one of his cases was tried, but this was vastly different. Was he, with the help of this unknown barrister, about to change his entire future? Half an hour later, and dangerously near the time of his meeting, Daniel wrapped his cloak tighter around the wind and alighted from the carriage. This prosperous area of London near Westminster boasted gas lights, and the lamplighters were out now with their long brass rods, hooking open the glass doors and turning the keys to start the gas flowing. Daniel kept to the shadows, head down, but walking purposefully, as if he had a right to be there. Cadogan hadn't been exaggerating when he'd said the ride from Vauxhall would take longer than normal. The sun had set, bringing chill dampness to the air. A fresh breeze whipped his lapels, and he anchored his hat atop his head. This had been the latest spring Daniel could remember. The latest anyone could remember, if the old tars who chewed their clay pipe stems and commented on the weather while toasting themselves around the pub fireplaces of London were to be believed. Turning onto Cowley Street, Daniel quickened his pace along the pathway in front of identical brick townhouses. At the end of Cowley, where it turned right and became Barton Street, a 5-storey, many-windowed residence marked his destination. No carriage waited at the curb. Had the Duke not yet arrived? Squaring his shoulders and wiping his palms on his breeches, Daniel inhaled the cold evening air to fortify himself. He clacked the brass knocker against the strike plate twice, and before he dropped his hand, the glossy black door opened. He offered his card to the rotund butler, who held out a small silver tray to accept the bit of pasteboard. Daniel Swann to see Sir James. This way. The portly servant turned, carrying the tray before him as if it held the crown jewels, and Daniel followed. A footman in full livery closed the front door behind them. Parquet floors, curving balustrade, heavily framed portraits, all the accoutrements of London prosperity. The place reeked of money and respectability. Though dressed impeccably, Daniel felt out of place. A simple Bow Street investigator had no right calling on a respected barrister, and a knighted barrister at that. Yet Daniel's potential membership in the peerage was the subject of this very meeting. The butler mounted the stairs, his footsteps heavy and his breath coming in puffs. Daniel followed, and at the top of the tall flight, waited while the servant opened the double doors. As Daniel entered, a surge of pleasure went through his chest. What a library! Books from floor to ceiling on 3 walls, tall windows.